Recyclico, making lithium-ion last forever. Recyclico's patented recycling process achieves up to 100% recovery of battery metals from lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, and aluminum. Recyclico Battery Materials Incorporated trades on the TSX Venture AMY, on the OTCQB AMYZF, and Frankfurt ID4. For more information, visit recyclicode.com or phone us at 778-574-4444. Recyclico, making lithium-ion last forever.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is market historian Bob Hoye. He's the chief investment strategist for chartsandmarkets.com. He's speaking to us from Vancouver. Welcome back to the show, Bob.
Yeah, hi, Jim. Good to be with you. And it's our Friday morning, and we're with our listeners as well.
And we love to answer listener questions. Our first one comes from Michael. He says, a growing number of financial pundits are predicting an October surprise similar to 1987 when the market crashed 50% in just a few days. They say the Hindenburg omen has been triggered. Oh, the humanity. Bob, is this possible in the age of the Fed's plunge protection team? Does the Fed have your back?
Right.
Yeah.
People really believe that the Fed is there to prevent bad things from happening, and yet they're just as regular as can be. And, thanks for reminding me about the plunge protection team, where there's some fund of some few billion dollars that is somehow that the White House can direct, and it's there to prevent bad things from happening. And, of course, it never works, but this is the problem: is that people and you've had a very successful bull market, and you get to the top, and everything feels so good, they really don't want it to end. So then you latch on to anything that will keep it going. And one of the classics is that and of course, with any boom, short rates go up, and then in the bust, short rates go down. But then you get to the hinge point where Wall Street pundits will say, oh, well, the Fed is going to start cutting, and that will then restore the action. But they don't. That's a belief. If you take a look at the chart history of S&P and interest rates, 3-month Treasury bills, the interest rates go up with the bull market and they go down with the bear. And indeed, some of the most precarious drops in the S&P have occurred with the fastest declines in the T-bill rate. So, this is the plunge protection team. But also, in a month or so ago, there was a Hindenburg omen, and that is a behavior of 52-week moving averages and things like that. And the word on the Hindenburg is that you can have a Hindenburg, but it may not be followed by a heavy hit in the market. But every Hindenburg has been followed by a heavy hit. So we've got the Hindenburg, and the market is rolling over, and I don't see anything that can rescue it.
Yeah, now, of course, they blame the Hindenburg on hydrogen, but it turns out it was painted with aluminum oxide, which is rocket fuel. That's what sends the space shuttle up. And they even tested a panel of the Hindenburg that had been saved. And Hindenburg himself had warned against using this silver-colored aluminum oxide to reflect heat away from it, saying this is explosive stuff, and he was told to keep his mouth shut.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I agree with that stuff, yeah.
Yeah. Our second question comes from our friend Kathleen. You know music's going to be involved in here somewhere. From Kathleen, a story headline from Zero Hedge. U.S. prepping to deploy American troops to the Middle East. Israel demands $10 billion more in subsidies. Sounds like an impending black swan event to me, but financial commentators say it's all priced in since the markets are forward-looking and point to the fact the S&P is still up 12% for the year. She says nobody seems to be listening. This reminds me of the chorus line of Barry McGuire's 1965 song, Eve of Destruction, quote, "And you tell me over and over again, my friend, you don't believe we're on the eve of destruction." Bob, could this be the eve of destruction for the financial markets and the world, or the global world order? Is there anywhere to hide? Maybe under a rock with some gold, or maybe a rock made out of gold.
Yeah. I like it. I hadn't run into the eve of destruction, but it certainly seems to be a timely title. And as to, doing in the global world order, the uni party out there, I think this is one of the themes I've been working on, is that, first of all, you get a bust in the market, it will be with an economic recession, no question. With a recession, the tax revenues to all levels of government will diminish, and then at times the contraction can be severe enough that the central bank won't be able to do its old inflationary thing and fund government through its operations. So, tax revenues, which is real money, will be declining, and they won't be able to invent unreal money to fund their operations. So I think all levels of government are going to suffer a severe setback. But what's more, the public is going to say, no bloody way. You got to mend your fences, look after you, and get responsible and accountable, and give up on nonsense like electric cars and electric this, electric that, and windmills and solar cells, and just get the most efficient fuel systems possible. Yeah. This is what I've been working on. A financial contraction could be accompanied by a major step in the political reform that is necessary.
We'll take a look at some of the headlines that caught Bob's eye when we return.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Bob Hoye. Some of the headlines that caught your eye today. Offshore wind turbines, an economic and environmental disaster, and New York refuses to give more money for offshore wind projects as cheap green myths implode.
Yeah.
So
that's a good one. It just doesn't work. What I hinted at was energy density. And with nuclear power, you have real terrific nuclear density. Then with the fossil fuels, Mother Nature in that side has also provided a very dense form of energy by way of coal, crude oil, or natural gas. But these other ones, the windmills and solar cells, they're just diffuse. They're not, the energy sources are not dense, and then there are problems there that it costs more energy to create a windmill than you ever get out of it. So it's uneconomic from the start. But again, it's a belief system, and I don't think it'll be able to handle the next recession as the ability to fund things disappears. So, yeah.
Major banks close over 3,000 branches nationwide. That must be in the U.S. I don't think there's 3,000 bank branches in all of Canada.
It's sort of an elusive number. Closing branches, maybe one of the big banks closed maybe 55 branches in a month and opened 30. So you got a bit of that going on where one area. But the 1930s, you had actually thousands of banks being shut down. And the problem in the U.S. is that back then they didn't allow cross-state banking. So then you had jillions of small banks not fully capitalized that took the hit. So you had thousands, literally, I'm telling you, thousands of failures each year. Whereas in Canada, you had the four huge banks on a heritage of sound banking. And yes, during the Depression, quite likely in Canada, Royal Bank or TD, they would be shutting down branches. But there were no failures. But the numbers, I put it in because it got used. It was an introduction to the thousands of banks that really did fail in the 1930s.
And of course, banks are laying off people right now, and AI is getting credit for that job destruction.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Mm-hmm. Asian central banks get creative on currencies to defend reserves.
Right.
That sounds interesting. Creative with currencies? How do you do that?
Yeah.
So what are they doing, Bob?
I don't know. I didn't bother reading the article. I just knew that they're being desperate.
Yeah.
Trying anything. Yeah.
Companies are being squeezed by higher interest rates.
Isn't that the case? Yeah, and these are real long interest rates are going up. And here's where history is a guide on this. I just looked it up yesterday. The real long, let's talk about the 10-year. And the low adjusted for the rate of inflation was 0.40%. And now it's up to 2%. So you've had a little more than a 2 percentage point rise in real long interest rates. And as we see the headlines, this is painful. Well, the work I've done points out that the typical increase in real long interest rates in the post-bubble contraction is in the order of 10 percentage points. And it's only up almost 3% now. Can you imagine what a 10 percentage point increase is going to do? Hell on earth, my friend.
Well, that would put us back into 1981 when people were, developers were bulldozing their projects rather than expose themselves to 21% mortgages.
Yeah.
Because they just couldn't sell.
Oh, yeah.
Now, another headline here, how Evergrande's chief tried to turn things around and failed.
Yeah, I'm sure they tried. That's our friends with the property development group in China that has been mainly generating headlines for the last, I guess we've been talking about those guys for about a year and a half now. So.
Well, it's all connected to those artificial cities China built.
Oh, yeah.
And then people bought apartments in those cities that nobody lived in. Did they ever think people were going to move there? I think there was also a program the Chinese government was talking about where they literally would bus and truck people from rural areas to these artificial cities. But nobody wanted to go. And of course, who's going to run the farms if you pull all the people out of the rural areas?
Right, yeah.
Apparently, China has been rather successful after their last round of swine flu. All the mom and pa farms were shut down, and now they've created these massive hog barns that are several stories high. And so their pork supplies bounced back rather quickly, and they're now in more sanitary surroundings, because the question for me has always been, why do all these diseases, Asian flus, come out of China? And it's because people live with their pigs and livestock because they don't want their animals stolen.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess if you put them in a high-rise concrete barn, a little hard to steal them now.
Well, it sort of boggles the imagination as well. So.
Yeah. Shoveling that one out.
Yeah.
Oh, boy, that's a job I didn't look forward to when I was a kid. Now, junk bonds yielding over 10%, tempting investors.
Yeah.
Bob, should I jump into junk bonds?
No. Next year they could trade at 20%.
Oh, yeah.
And some of them could be no bid because they ain't paying interest payments. So, no, the junk bond market is going to be a nightmare.
Yes. Well, if you want junky bonds, take a look at Argentina, where inflation's running at 120%, and you can get 110% on your bank account, but you're still behind inflation there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a game you don't want to play.
Yeah. Now, also, Jim, I'm working on a special gold study. We were looking for an important low for gold stocks in October. It looks like they're bottoming, got oversold. And so if folks want to take a look at the gold study, they can get in touch with you or in touch with me, and we'd be delighted to show it to them.
info@housestreet.com.
Yeah.
Same as our questions here. And from the Wall Street Journal, the headline, how long can the American consumer keep splurging because their credit card debt is at record highs?
That is key, and it's a tremendous motivation to keep buying strongly. And who knows, Jim, I can't tell you, but it's certainly one to watch for. Is all of a sudden people hit the wall and they'll stop buying. But I can't tell you when on that one, but it's something to watch for. Yeah.
Well, I know personal travel after all the lockdowns and so on over the last 3 years, people want to get out, see folks, see things, do things, and I think they're worried it's going to happen again.
Yeah.
So, go and take a look at the pyramids in Peru and Egypt. Bob, on this gold study, is there anything more you can tell us about it?
Yeah, we did one in last April, May, when the gold sector was overbought, and advised our subscribers on that. And we had a few ways of counting out to when the next low would be, and it was October. Now, if the market's not oversold, it's going to keep going down, but it became very oversold. So, and some of the things that we monitor that relate to gold stocks, like gold relative to commodities and gold relative to crude oil, also are oversold and bottoming. So we should be on, it's developing the bottom, and once it turns, maybe the first rally could run into February, but quite likely it's the start of a multi-year bull market for gold stocks. So one should be overweighted in gold stocks.
Bob, thank you so much for the update.
Yeah, Jim, good to be with you, and looking forward to next week.
My guest has been market historian Bob Hoye, the chief investment strategist for chartsandmarkets.com. If you have any questions for Bob, you can send them to info@housestreet.com. Our YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Find us on X @HouseStreet. We're also on Facebook. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on HoweStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HoweStreet.com radio is a production of Howe Street Media Incorporated.